Welcome back to another episode of the Filmaholic. We're going to be discussing our personal list of top 10 favorite films of all time. Now, a fun little rundown for you guys. And, Bill, how do you want to do this? You want to do this back and forth, or you want to go whole list at a time?
Nah, whole list.
Whole list. Okay. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. All right, at number 10, Jerry Maguire. Just because this movie obviously has some of the most memorable quotes. My favorite one is when he's in the when Jerry's in the bathroom, not the, like the locker room, right?
And I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you got to see it. It has literally the memorable quotes ever. But my favorite one when he's just he just gets pissed off and he just goes well, I'm paraphrasing here, but he's working for you is like an up and down, swallowing siege that I will never fully explain it to you. And that's how I am for every work place that I have worked for. Because it's just, but, and plus it's a solid performance from, Cuba Gooding Jr., Tom Cruise, Renee Swinger, so yeah. And number 9 will be Disney's Hercules.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were that big a fan of that film.
I'll go into it in a bit. Not just because it came out with some of the most memorable fucking memes of all time. And plus, this is before James Woods lost his, And I'm pretty sure you have
James Woods in person.
Yes, you should. We should make a whole video on him one day. But this man, take away his voice work for Hercules, but God, man, this Hercules literally was not Hercules, but Hades was ahead of his time, and especially when he was just what are those? And he just literally goes I think they're kind of comfy. Then he just goes Then also just because and also it's I kind of, when I was waiting for you, I was watching a video actually based on this just because I was bored, and I saved it 2 weeks ago. But I got into it now, and it was just talking about how is this also good thing pretty much about American culture right now. Well, modern day American culture, with how people will idolize celebrities or the fame, or and also companies, just cashing in on whatever's current right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And also just because I think the musical too. I like some of the songs and stuff. I think my favorite song, but just the Spanish version actually, the one with Ricky Martin. There's also one with David Bisbal, but it's it was when he leaves his adopted parents, that song.
It's been a long time since I saw that movie.
But you know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
Oh yeah. No matter the distance. That's At number 8 will be Marriage Story.
Okay.
Yeah, I got some modern ones in here. I got some modern day ones. Well, most of them are modern day. Well, all of them actually. Marriage Story. Man, I never cried like a bitch, man. I was like Adam Driver. I cried 4 times. This movie literally made me question my marriage. I'm not even married, but it made me question my marriage. I found Adam Driver's character Charlie a tiny bit relatable. Just because when I was with who, I kind of had that same emotion. I feel like I was like a robot and stuff at times. Well, not like a robot, but it was just yeah. But also the one where they talk about in the, when they're in the apartment, he was just going all I'm in my 20s and I miss so much.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of feel, and I kind of saw myself in that. Yeah, but we already went to Marriage Story one time, so I really don't feel like I should add more to this. Number 7 will be Logan. This movie is not a superhero movie. This movie is just a movie, a film playing itself. This is like for me, it's just like movies. Certain movies will take the rated R and just start like having blood everywhere, but this movie used the rated R like we're not using it just so we can add on upon it, but we're going to use it because like the story calls for it. What we're trying to like tell as the story calls for it. We're not doing it just because like we're trying to make a quick easy buck for visuals and all that. And we want to make like audiences talk about how like the movie was all right, but the blood was like awesome. Like no, like they were like no, like we need the rated R because it is needed to tell this amazing story. And plus, like Hugh Jackman, who should have got a nomination at best. Like, and plus, like,
Definitely. I feel like him and Patrick Stewart should have gotten
yeah,
nominations.
mm, and also just like it was a beautiful, well done film, and it was a good conclusion to a character we have grown up watching or reading about. Number 6 will be Prisoners.
I knew that was going to be on your list.
Yeah, with the boy Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman. Now, obviously, the soundtrack is to me the best thing. Legitimately, like it's great. There's a dog barking downstairs, but I was going to hit upon about it. It has a good use of symbolism, like symbols. Uh, Paul Dano did a phenomenal job. I was a Jake Gyllenhaal, you know how I feel about him. Hugh Jackman, from like hell, even Terrence Howard. like, like I don't know how in the hell this man like he needs
It's
to
got a
stop.
great cast.
Yeah, like hell, even like with Terrence Howard, I feel he's actually good when he does some good shit and tries. He's actually pretty good. But man, like the cinematography, the score, like the lighting, and like especially like how they just like especially like the detective Loki is just like he's just like he will be that guy that will go walk into a TJ Maxx and sees a pair of jeans, and if he's sure that those are the jeans he's gonna get, he will get them. But if but he feels something is wrong about it, he's just like, no, I gotta try them. I gotta look at the mirror. Like that's how he kind of went with his cases. It's just like if I feel certain that this is it, he'll move on. But if he still felt like no, there's still like just even if it's a tiny thread, something is missing, he was still like keep going. And I really like that. And even like that scene where he just lost it in his cubicle. And I talked to police officers. There are some like because I know some guys like that's just how I feel sometimes because you just like you don't know
Excuse me.
how to express yourself. So yeah, number 5, another Jakey Boo film, Nightcrawler.
Okay, hold up. Let's do your 5, and then I'll do my 5, and then we'll go back to you.
All right, we'll come
Okay.
back to me. Nightcrawler.
Okay, so starting with my number 10 is Blade Runner 2049. This is a 2017 film, obviously a sequel to the original film Blade Runner, which came out in the 80s with Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford comes back in this film, delivers definitely one of the best performances we've seen from him, I think ever, but definitely in a long time. I think the Academy completely like overlooked this film, right? Like the only thing that it was rewarded was cinematography, which it should have been. Got snubbed for Best Picture. Danny Villeneuve should have gotten a directing. I don't think he got a directing nomination for this. He should have. Um, it was one of the best well directed films of that year. The story was great. The score was fantastic, but the performances were amazing. Like Harrison Ford, not only do I think he should have been nominated, Ryan Gosling. This is one of, if not the best performance of Ryan Gosling of the decade, and he wasn't even nominated for it. He was nominated for La La Land, which we'll get to in a bit here.
Obviously.
But honestly, his performance in Blade Runner is better than it was in La La Land. The only film that I think competes with his performance in Blade Runner 2049 is Blue Valentine. But yeah, like I love everything about this film, the setting, the tone, the futuristic, just eerie vibe that you have the whole film. How it's a sequel. It builds on the original film, but it's not restrained to it. It carries you forward with a new story, and it does great by doing that. But then also bringing back elements from the first one, bringing back characters, still tying it in. Great job, I think. And it's a film that like doesn't have like a straightforward villain in a way like you would think. Like Love is she's kind of the main villain of the film, even though like you think it's going to be Jared Leto, who actually has a smaller role. And by the way, Jared Leto is amazing in this film, right? Like his scenes, this one, especially the scene with him and Harrison Ford, phenomenal. So just knocks you out of your seat. And then also the ladies in the film, Ana de Armas. This is the film that like got me to recognize her and her greatness. So yeah, that's my number 10. Then moving on to number 9 is This Is the End, which was directed by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg back in 2013. This is my definitely my favorite like straightforward comedy of all time. Saw this film during senior week after I graduated high school with my friends, and it was just a great time, a great experience, one that I'll always remember. And like this is a film that I can pop in like anytime. I can watch this movie countless times, any kind of occasion with anybody, and it just makes you feel good. There's so much humor that you laugh at every time you watch it, and it's also a movie about friendship, which is nice. Then moving on to my number 8 is Rocky. The original Rocky came out in 1976, won Best Picture. Definitely my favorite sports film of all time, but grew up watching this series, especially this first one, but the whole series with my dad. So that's something I think about when I rewatch these films, and I like the character of Rocky is one of my favorite film characters of all time. I love the relationship with him and Adrian, just everything about Rocky. And his character is great. It's a true underdog story. Then we move on to number 7, which for me is Scream. Came out in 1996, directed by Wes Craven, and it was written by Kevin Williamson. Now, I'm not a big horror guy, never have been, but Scream is the one thing that like makes me love that. Like, and the main thing about Scream that I love so much is the screenplay. It's one of my favorite screenplays of all time. Like Kevin Williamson is fantastic. He also wrote Dawson's Creek. He has a certain voice that is very distinct, and I love it. Like his dialogue is fantastic, and the characters he created in that I feel like are so distinguishable and iconic, and just he created like a really good series there that if they continue, I really think they should bring Kevin Williamson back because I don't think you can have Scream without him. But yeah, so then my number 6 is Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. This is probably the best sequel ever made, and certainly one of my favorites. Takes the original Star Wars, elevates it to a whole new level, gives us new storylines, different tones, builds on the characters in the original, but also adds new characters, makes the original film makes this film darker. It was just a great ride, and Star Wars is very special to me. The original Star Wars trilogy as well as Jaws is what got me into film in the first place. Watching those films with my grandfather, they really mean a lot. So this one in particular just takes me back to my childhood. All right, now on to your number 5, Nightcrawler.
Number 5, what he said. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal's performance, from the Coyote and from like, just being a fucking complete savage at times with the character. Oh, that's like the little small, like, just the small things, You know how much I'm into that, and also just cause like it's a good, probably like a good commentary in our today's society. Like I talked about this with you before, like how like when he goes to that like to the trailer and asks for like a job, and the guy's just like, I don't hire fucking criminals. But then he goes back to the guy to buy something, but the guy still sells it to him, despite his criticism about it. And that's just kind of like it's just it's a good commentary in society, pretty much like how like not how everyone is a hypocrite, but like it's just like yeah, we're hypocrites. Like even if it's just for something small, we're still gonna be hypocrites. Even if like 99% of us like worldwide don't recognize it, there's always gonna be that 1% or 0.1 that's gonna acknowledge or recognize it. And especially it shows like how far are you willing to go. Like look, there's like levels of like you know like Kobe, Tom Brady, or like guys that done it the right way. I might get some backlash about the Tom Brady one, but but then there's this guy like fucking dragging dead bodies, causing accidents on purpose. Like it's just like how far are you willing to go? At number four will be Once Upon a Time. Okay, okay, fuck it. We said this before. The performance ends. Brad Pitt just being fucking cool. I'm pretty sure that this man just walks in right now into your house or my house. Our pants are going to be wet. Not because we have a crush on him, but it's just not because we're like we
just
don't roll like
happens.
that. We don't roll like that, but it just happens. Man, like it's the like and it's dialogue heavily like it's heavily driven by dialogue, which is nothing bad. It's great, and it's also about friendship and a guy who, like you have one guy who's here like super famous and is like he thinks himself washed up, but he still has plenty more left in the tank. But he's not willing to do the smaller films because he's just for that time it's just like it was just like mostly like blockbusters and stuff. But he wasn't willing to go like lower tier, which like when he did that I forgot it was a TV show when he did with the beard and everything. The directors complimented him like good job, even
Lancer.
though Lancer, yeah. Even the girl was just like, that's the best acting I ever seen. Like it's just like he still has plenty more in the tank, or if not, he could have gotten into a renaissance of his career, which he did in a way with doing the Italian movies. And then you have Brad Pitt, his character, who's just like, yeah, he has had a shitty life, but he's humble about it, and he's just kind of like, man, whatever. I'm here, like I'm living. I live in a decent place. Like, what else? What do I have to complain about? And I have a job. I have a good friend. So yeah. Then number three will be The Wolf of Wall Street.
Man, you really like this movie.
I fucking love this movie. I fucking love that movie. Like, this guy's a fucking asshole, but I wanted to be him at certain points. Like, don't you even say about snorting cocaine out of asses, no. But man, like take away the performances and everything, but it's also like it has good advice on life or business. Not all of it, but it does have some good advice there, like just for life or whatever you like in business.
Don't get caught.
Yeah, don't get caught. Like yeah, but also like the like sell me the pen. That's a good one. Like there's a lot of things. Even like you're an aspired entrepreneur, you can pick up some good things, learn some bad things, but hopefully you don't do any bad things. Just learn from it. Just learn it. So whenever you see it in your own business, you can catch on to it. So yeah, and especially Jonah Hill's teeth. That shit was just impressive. I'm sorry. All right, then number two will be Tropic Thunder. From Tom Cruise's fat hands, from Robert Downey Jr.'s blackface to Jack Black pulling a gun outside of his ball sacks to Ben Stiller, which is like I don't know what the fuck he was doing, but yeah, I don't know. It was and also like a good like how like even how like today's Hollywood is like you have that one guy who's like trying to like revamp himself, go for like that like critically acclaimed movie slash role, so he can like redeem his career. They have that one guy who was just like he does alcohol, like he drinks like shit, like a fucking sailor. He does cocaine, but he's a good actor, and he has some like controversy behind him, but he's just a good actor, and especially like how like certain actors are like willing to go like, well, not Christian Bale, like that's just another thing, but like Scarlett Johansson when she was just that moment, like that, and also like Jack Black's character is just like he's trying to go from like doing stupid
Wait,
silly
what?
shit.
Scarlett Johansson's in Tropic Thunder?
No, like what Scarlett Johansson was doing, like with taking some roles.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that. Well, that and then matches. Also, you had like Jack Black's characters is like he's making that transition from doing like his version of Happy Madison Productions to be like trying to like take the serious stuff. Then you have that artist like or singer who's trying like let's just go with like mostly like today hip hop artists like or rappers who are like just it's just like hey, I am more than this. I don't just mumble and just spit rhymes. I can actually like do some decent stuff. And then also like shows like how like certain actors or actresses are afraid of coming out as like liking the same sex. So there's like a lot of things like it's really good but yet funny. And the blackface thing, that's honestly like the riskiest shit but funniest thing ever, which is wrong but it's still funny. It's just funny. Like it's wrong but it's funny. But it kept but it was a risk worth taking because it was just like it was a smart risk because they had something to fall back on, like how I said, because like it reflects on today's current society. Well, Hollywood's that's his circle, not all of it, but most of it. Then at number
Okay,
one,
okay. Wait on your number one. Let me do my 5 through 2. Okay. So for my number 5, I mentioned earlier, The Empire Strikes Back is probably the best sequel ever made. So take that into consideration. But it's not my favorite sequel of Star Wars. Even though I do think it is the best made Star Wars film, my favorite Star Wars film to this day is still Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Um, and as the years go by, this may drop down, but right now it's still holding out at number 5 for me. It did drop down this year because I can't ignore the fact that it's the first part of a trilogy that ends with The Rise of Skywalker, so that does affect the viewing experience for me, but I still love this film. It's so cinematic. Like, there's no, like, it's still the best movie going experience that I've ever had. Like, watching that in a room, audience, the way the audience felt in that, the energy around everybody, the reaction to every scene that happened, every surprise, every character reveal was really awesome, and the way that I felt watching that film was great, and I think it does a great job of kind of like with Blade Runner, it does a great job of continuing the story that we've already seen, but adding new stuff to it. Now, this is done a little bit differently because it does rely heavily on the past more than, like, say, Blade Runner did. But I love the characters that J.J. and Lawrence Kasdan created with Force Awakens, with Kylo Ren, with Rey. In terms of this film, I thought they were all like amazing. Kylo Ren's one of my favorite movie characters of all time, and J.J. Abrams created him in this film, and so I have that in there. And I think this film really set up a lot of things that, while we didn't end up getting them, they could have been awesome, and really kept people guessing for 2 years until The Last Jedi of what was going to happen, what was going to come next. And I haven't really, other than say Infinity War, I haven't really seen that with a film since then.
Go ahead.
What?
Go ahead.
So for my number 4 is going to be La La Land. Just
Goddamn bastard.
one of the best films ever made. Um,
Really? Because it was number 4.
well, yeah, number 1 through 3 is better, but
Just go on.
should have won Best Picture in
I say
2016.
go on.
Didn't. It did for like 5 seconds, which is really unfortunate. But the cast in this is incredible. It's extremely well directed. Damien Chazelle won Best Director for this film. He's the youngest director to ever win that. Cinematography is amazing. The score is amazing. The soundtrack's awesome. This is This is like identified as a musical, and it is, but like it's not your typical musical. It's not like every scene had to be like a song. Like it just when it felt like it needed to have a song, it had one, and then it moved like a normal narrative film, moving like aside from that. It's got comedic moments. It's got dramatic moments. I love the argument in the with the dinner scene, which is a huge turning point in the film, I think. And opens up the characters and dissects them at that point. La La Land, just going back to, it was a completely different type of movie going experience when I saw this. Like I watched it by myself, down at the front row or towards the front row, but not many people was in there. I was just trying to get away from people. But like, it was one of those things that like you won't forget it when you watch it in the theater. Just like the feeling that you had watching that film. Going to my number 3 is The Big Lebowski. This is probably my second favorite screenplay of all time. The Coen brothers, they knocked it out of the park with the screenplay. They also directed the film. It's very well directed. But the writing, the dialogue, the characters are all so incredible in here. It's one of those films, like I was mentioned earlier, but This Is the End, that I could watch this film all the time and still laugh at the jokes and still be interested and not lose any kind of interest in the film. And it's a film too that like when you watch it, the story's good enough that you like pick up new things each time as well. Obviously, you got Jeff Bridges in here, you got John Goodman, Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore, some really great performances. The dude is one of my favorite movie characters of all time as well. So, here we go here.
Hey, that's Jesus.
Ha 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 ha.
My grandma has the same picture.
Moving on to number 2 is a film that you already mentioned and that we've talked about, countless times already, and that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Billions and billions of time.
This is my second favorite film of all time right now. In the future, I think this will move up and probably become my favorite film, but I'm not prepared to give it that title right now because it's so soon. It's not even a year old yet. I want to give some age to it and then see how I feel about it. But this is hands down my favorite screenplay of all time. You got my favorite movie character in here with Cliff Booth. Love Brad Pitt's performance. Leo's performance is amazing. Margot Robbie's performance is amazing. I don't think Tarantino, he's the best director of all time, in my opinion. And he's made some incredible films, but he's never been better than he is in this film. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. I think it will become my favorite film over time, but not yet. Which moves me on to my number 1, but you can go ahead and go first.
All right, I'm gonna say
Hobbs
this
and Shaw.
No, you bastards, chicks. Oh, I'm just kidding. No, it's La La Land. Okay, it's from the music, from the score, the performances, the costume designs, and from
It's not that good.
It's fucking good. All right, you can fuck you. All right. God damn it. Shit. So it's God damn it, you make me lose my train of thought from its beautiful message behind it to me crying like a baby for the last 10 minutes on the what if montage, and for me crying more like a little baby when they just smile at each other. So this movie to me is literally the definition of affection. Like, you don't understand. Like I'm pretty sure the whole country of Mexico will be fine with Damien breaking the Mexican streak that one, because it will come back soon. Because we apparently we can create good directors, but not great politicians. But this movie's just great, man. It's great. It's great. Fantastic. I will make love to it if I could, but I can't. But man, this is.
You can.
I know I can't, but I just want to pay the hospital bill. Man, it's wonderful, and oh, God,
Keep trying to show this case off. You want me to go get my still book?
Let's talk about it when the film is over. And I was messing, but yeah, it's wonderful, man. Like, man, like, shit. I just can't describe it, man. It's like, God, it's like watching like Kobe take that 81-point game. It's like Peyton Manning doing that 7 touchdown. I just can't fucking describe it, man. It's
and it's a very atmospheric film too, which I really love. When I can watch a film and I can actually I can feel it, right? Like, I don't know if you feel like you're there, and you get that with La La Land, you get that with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I like when films do that. It takes me into their world.
It's just wonderful, you know. I'm gonna admit it. Okay, now you go.
My favorite film of all time is Jaws. Came out in 1975. Should have won Best Picture. Spielberg's best film, obviously. Based off the novel, but it's far better than the novel if you've ever read that. It's not a bad book, but the movie's better. It's one of the greatest films of all time, too. This film, along with the original Star Wars trilogy, like I mentioned earlier, is what got me into cinema, got me into film. I used to watch it with my grandpa. We had it on VHS, and I watched it countless times. And it's just, it's the top tier for me as far as cinema goes. But the thing is, and the reason I think Once Upon a Time may beat it one day to become my favorite film is Jaws isn't the type of film that I personally would go out and make, because it's an adventure film, right? But it's all, but I love that it's the best adventure film for me. But it also has so much other elements to it. It's got horror, which some people consider a horror film. I don't. But it's also got drama in it, right? And the scene with the 3 guys on the boat in the U.S. Indianapolis story, that's my second favorite movie scene of all time. It used to be my favorite until a certain scene in Once Upon a Time happened. Just the characters in this are all great as well. The performances, like I said with La La Land and Once Upon a Time, it's very atmospheric too. I feel like I'm on that boat with them in the middle of the ocean the whole movie. Once they're out there, the comedic moments work. Everything about this movie works. You also can't talk about this film and not mention John Williams' score, which is one of the most iconic scores of all time, up there with Star Wars, I think. As soon as you hear just a couple notes of his score, you automatically know what's happening, and you get afraid of the water. But yeah, that's my favorite film of all time. And that's our list, guys. Thanks for tuning in and watching.